Rabbiner Levin, meine sehr geehrten Damen und Herren, liebe Freunde, ich heiße Sie und euch alle ganz herzlich willkommen hier in der jüdischen Gemeinde Düsseldorf zu einem besonderen Event in Kooperation mit der deutsch-israelischen Gesellschaft. Ja, der 7. Oktober hat nicht nur in Israel, sondern auch hier viele Effekte erzeugt. Wir sprechen von sehr, sehr schwerwiegenden, nachhaltigen Zäsur. Wir haben natürlich als jüdische Gemeinschaft in verschiedenster Art und Weise mit Israel solidarisiert. Wir haben also Spenden gesammelt und überlegt, wie wir noch helfen können. Und einer der Gedanken war tatsächlich direkt eine Verbindung aufzubauen zu einem der Ortschaften, die am 7. Oktober besonders schwer betroffen waren. Und das war Kibbuz Nahal Oz. Und über diese Verbindung haben wir dann überlegt, ob auch Menschen von dort herkommen können, um sich ein bisschen zu erholen, um ein bisschen Abstand zu gewinnen. Wir hatten hier, ich weiß nicht, ob es viele von Ihnen mitbekommen haben, eine Gruppe von Schwimmer aus dem Süden gehabt, die hier 2 Wochen in Düsseldorf waren und hier auch trainiert haben, zusammen mit den Düsseldorfer Schwimmern und auch zu Besuch waren in der Gemeinde und verschiedenen anderen Institutionen der Stadt. Und jetzt haben wir auch noch 2 Gäste, die direkt aus Nahal Oz kommen. Steht drauf, Rotem und Nadav. Die haben den 7. Oktober in diesem Kibbuz überlebt, diesen bestialischen Angriff, und sind diese Woche hier in Düsseldorf von uns eingeladen worden, um einmal ein bisschen Abstand zu gewinnen, aber auch über die Ereignisse zu berichten, wie sie das erlebt haben. Und ich denke, gerade jetzt, wo so viele Nachrichten über Social Media verbreitet werden, auch ich würde das alles auch teilweise unter Fake News und Wahrheitsverdrehungen, ist es besonders wichtig, dass man authentische Zeitzeugen hört, wie sie das erlebt haben und was sie für Eindrücke hatten. Der Vortrag wird in englischer Sprache stattfinden. Gibt es jemanden, der mit Englisch Probleme hat? Wenn das nicht der Fall ist, dann werden Sie es so machen. Wenn jemand tatsächlich ein Problem hat, dann soll er sich am besten jemanden suchen, der ihn vielleicht ein bisschen übersetzen kann. Ich denke, der eine oder andere wird es können. Wären das nur viele gewesen, dann hätten wir eine andere Lösung gefunden. Insofern bitte ich dann entsprechend erstmal die Frau Bürgermeisterin Punkte auf die Bühne. Sie will auch ein Grußwort im Namen der Stadt geben, und anschließend werden dann die beiden dann auf die Bühne kommen. Vielen Dank.
Sehr geehrter Herr Horowitz, vielen Dank für wieder die klaren und treffenden Worte. Liebe Mitglieder der jüdischen Gemeinde, Freunde und Freundinnen, meine sehr geehrten Damen und Herren, und ganz besonders möchte ich Herrn Katz und Herrn Tzabari begrüßen. Welcome to Düsseldorf. Es ist eine große Ehre, a great honor, dass Sie zu uns gekommen sind, und ich darf Ihnen beiden, aber auch Ihnen allen die herzlichsten Grüße von unserem Oberbürgermeister Dr. Stefan Keller ausrichten. Er ist leider terminlich verhindert. Ich darf ihn heute vertreten, aber Sie besuchen ihn ja auch noch im Rathaus, also Sie werden noch zusammenkommen, und das ist ihm auch ausgesprochen wichtig. Heute werden Sie uns berichten über die Vorkommnisse des 7. Oktobers im letzten Jahr. Sie waren  des furchtbaren Angriffs der Hamas auf Israel. der blutigen Attacke auf ihren Kibbuz und sie sind Überlebende. Und entschuldigen Sie bitte vielleicht eine persönliche Anmerkung, dass ich heute hier stehe und zu Überlebenden spreche, kenne ich. Ich habe in meiner Zeit als Bürgermeisterin viele Überlebende der Shoah kennenlernen dürfen. Und es gehört zu meinen beeindruckendsten Begegnungen meiner Bürgermeisterinnenzeit. Aber vor 6 Monaten hätte ich mir nicht vorstellen können, dass ich zu Überlebenden spreche aus einer anderen Generation. Und das ist für mich eine ganz furchtbare Vorstellung. Das, was Sie erlitten haben und noch immer durchmachen, muss schrecklich sein. Ich wünsche Ihnen viel Kraft und Stärke, dies durchzustehen und zu verarbeiten. Unser Mitgefühl gilt Ihnen. Unsere Gedanken in Düsseldorf sind bei allen Opfern, bei allen Angehörigen, bei allen Entführten. Immer noch sind mehr als 130 jüdische Geiseln in der Gewalt der Hamas. Danke, dass Sie darüber berichten und dass Sie uns Ihre Erlebnisse schildern. Denn in den letzten rund 5,5 Monaten hat es Versuche gegeben, die Täter- und die Opferrolle zu vertauschen. Das Existenzrecht Israels wurde auch auf deutschen und Düsseldorfer Straßen in Frage gestellt. Es gab unfassbaren Hass und auch tätliche Gewalt gegen Jüdinnen und Juden und gegen jüdische Einrichtungen. Auch hier in Düsseldorf fühlten und fühlen sich Juden und Jüdinnen nicht mehr sicher. Das ist beschämend. Die Dimension dieses unmenschlichen Hasses und dieses Antisemitismus muss uns insbesondere in Deutschland entsetzen. Denn wir können und dürfen die Ereignisse des 7. Oktobers nicht trennen vom Holocaust. Kein Terrorangriff, kein regionaler Pogrom, keine Attacke seit dem Ende des Holocaust hat so viele Opfer gekostet, hat so unendliches Leid über jüdische Menschen gebracht wie der Terrorangriff der Hamas. Unsere Lehre aus der Shoah war immer: Nie wieder darf so etwas geschehen. Bei uns war es deshalb immer Staatsräson, sich für das Existenzrecht Israels einzusetzen. Es war immer Staatsräson, jüdisches Leben zu schützen. So ziehen wir daraus, ja, danke. So ziehen wir daraus unsere Schlüsse und wir wissen um unsere Verantwortung. Wir stellen in Düsseldorf ganz klar fest, dies nie wieder ist jetzt. Seien Sie gewiss, dass wir in Düsseldorf vom ersten Tag des Angriffs an fest an der Seite Israels standen und auch jetzt noch stehen. Unsere Solidarität gilt den Angegriffenen. Die Anerkennung des Existenzrechts Israel ist unabdingbar. Das Recht zur Verteidigung Israels ebenso. Das unterstützt die große Mehrheit der Düsseldorferinnen und Düsseldorfer. Mit aller Kraft treten wir dafür ein, dass Jüdinnen und Juden hier in Düsseldorf frei und sicher leben können. Und auch alle anderen wollen wir überzeugen. Wir tun alles, um zu informieren, um aufzuklären, um zu mahnen und zu bilden. So dass die Shoah und das, was wir daraus lernen müssen, nicht vergessen oder relativiert wird. Damit Antisemiten und Antisemitinnen niemals die Deutungshoheit über die Geschichte erhalten. Auch nicht über die Ereignisse des 7. Oktobers. Sehr geehrter Herr Katz, sehr geehrter Herr Tzabari, ich danke Ihnen für Ihr Kommen. Bring them home now.
Good evening, everyone. I will begin with the word thank you. The two words, thank you. Danke. Thank you for having us here in your community. Thank you for hosting us. Thank you for opening your ears to hear our story and to letting us share with you what we have been doing and what we have been through the 7th of October, since the 7th of October until now. My name is Rotem Katz. I'm 32. My roots actually are here in Germany, and I'm a teacher in high school. I teach math in high school in Israel. The school obviously is not active these days. And we will start by introducing ourselves about the kibbutz, about what the kibbutz used to be for us, and then a little bit about the 7th of October and what happened later.
So, good evening. It's really exciting to be here. My name is Nadav Tzabari. I'm 35 years old, and I'm also a teacher. We're both teachers. I teach 6th graders in the south, not far away from home. And we have also a dog that our family is doing babysitter to him right now. Rotem and I got married in 2022 in the north. So when people ask us why Nahal Oz and how did you get to Nahal Oz, the story began in 2014. In 2014, there was a military operation called Protective Edge. Back then, I was in reserve. I was a commander in a unit called Givati Infantry, and we were fighting in Gaza Strip for a month. During that fighting, I was injured around Kibbuz Nahal Oz, and ironically, 2 years after, in 2016, I decided that Nahal Oz is going to be my home. So I moved there, and a year after, in 2017, we met each other, and in 2018, Rotem did the big move from the big city, Tel Aviv, to the kibbutz and the countryside. And until this day, we're saying this is the best decision we've ever made. Finding a small house, nature, simple life, both teachers, nothing can go wrong.
This was our first house in Nahal Oz.
Yeah.
As you can see, it's called, in Hebrew, we say caravilla. It's a mix between caravan and a villa, but forget about the villa. More of a caravan here behind. It was the first house we had together as a couple.
Yeah. So a little bit about the kibbutz. The kibbutz is located 700 meters from Gaza Strip. It's a small community where the main income of the kibbutz is agriculture. Really, really simple life, as beautiful as it sounds. In the kibbutz, we have approximately around 450 members of the community. It's a really, really small community, so we know everyone. And so it feels like a really small, big family. Here in the picture, you can see that when people ask us, how close are you actually to the Gaza Strip? So whenever you step outside of the kibbutz, you see in the background, you can see the buildings of Gaza. So it's really, really close that you can actually see the windows of the buildings, but you get used to this site because this is the view from home. And we have this is the wheat field, which we also have a dairy in the kibbutz, So this the wheat is used to, we grow the wheat outside of the kibbutz, and then we take the wheat inside the kibbutz so the cows can eat. This is sometimes he's a monster, sometimes he's cute.
All the time.
This is our dog, and we have some more pictures. This is how actually the outside, the nature outside of the kibbutz looks right now in spring. This is from a few years ago. This is Rotem's parents who came to visit. And this is a picture of my sister in the entrance of our house. You can see everything is so green and made out of wood, really peaceful. This is the inside of the house. On the right, you can see the safe room. And some of the goals that we set to ourselves was to make our home as Avraham Avinu did. Everyone is welcome. Family, friends, whoever wants to come, we'll sit down, have a good drink, play some games together. So this is what actually we did over and over again as a house of loving and caring, having family dinners together, just really, really living the dream. Even though it's not common that a young couple in Israel will actually buy a house, we had fortune to go into the kibbutz, which is, let's say, affordable. So we had a house. These are my sisters. We celebrated a birthday to my youngest sister. This is also on one of the holidays. We sat outside just having fun. This is the inside of the neighborhood. So whenever the spring, summer comes, people are going outside to just have fun on the grass, laying down, having a good time together. And this is also in Hanukkah, right? We always say that in Israel, being Jewish has so many colors and forms. You don't have to be Orthodox or really keep being religious in order to be, connected to your roots, to the heritage. So in the kibbutz, you can always see stuff like that. This is
the monster.
This is Rotem getting grades to his students and Tom observing from the side. Okay.
Yeah.
This is where everything starts.
I would
just before we start. This is the picture that starts the story of October 7th, the night before we start the story. We were ready to celebrate the 70th anniversary of the kibbutz. So on Friday night, we have this big rehearsal, big show. Half of the community participated in songs, in dancing, in acting. It was so much fun. It was so funny. We sang and danced during the evening, and we went to sleep knowing that tomorrow, on October 7th, it's going to be the biggest celebration ever for the kibbutz on the 70th anniversary. And then
I will tell you a little bit about the background of how kibbutz is working in an emergency situation. We have something called in Hebrew we call it tzachi. Tzachi in Hebrew is Tzevet Cherem Yishuvi, is the emergency local team. We have it to every settlement in Israel. Unfortunately, in Israel, the settlement requires it. The Tzachi has something called Kitat Konenut. Kitat Konenut is a group of civilians that function as soldiers when needed in an emergency. It means that they are practicing and know how to operate a military small operation, something between 30 to 40 minutes. They can handle an emergency situation, and then the army and the police enforcement should arrive and take control. I am in a role of the head of the emergency local team in Nahal Oz. It means that I am the manager of an emergency situation. I am actually the community manager when it comes to an emergency situation. In Nahal Oz, we never had this long of an emergency situation. We had, after Tzuk Eitan, 2 years of silence from Gaza Strip. We didn't feel much of war, but around 1 year and a half or 2 years after Tzuk Eitan, that took place in 2014, it began, we call it in Hebrew, we say tiftuf. It was dripping, the bombing, the missiles, the red alert alarms, it was dripping. It began to be more, it became worse and worse as the month went by, and then we had an operation. This is how a military operation, this is how it worked. You should understand. You have months of dripping and then a military operation. Silence for, it can be 2 weeks, it can be 2 months, and then again dripping, and then military operation. It was this routine we had in Nahal Oz. We always say that Nahal Oz, it's like a phrase. Nahal Oz is 95% heaven and 5% hell. And we decided, like Nadav said, as a young couple, to pay the price of this dripping and military operations and enjoy the 95% heaven we had. Because as you can see, for us, it was heaven. And the family and the friends and the nature and everything was for us heaven. Prior to the 7th of October, we had 2 months of many protests on the fence of Palestinians. The protests of Palestinians near the fence of Nahal Oz are violent. It means that we heard many bombs exploding, many shoutings, many people were trying to harm the soldiers that tried to keep the fence, and it was for us routine. It wasn't something new. We knew how to handle it. I can go back to my WhatsApp conversations with everyone in the kibbutz, and I always wrote down, everything is okay, nothing is new. They are protesting near the fence. They can protest. They got violence sometimes, but we can handle it. We are in control. So none of us thought that when we will wake up at the 7th of October, we will wake up to the most horrifying morning and day we have ever had in our lives. On 6:30 in the morning, 6:29 to be exact, we started hearing many red alert alarms. I don't know if you're familiar with the alarm that we hear in Nahal Oz. It's not a regular alarm. It's a woman says red alert, zwei adom in Hebrew, and it didn't stop. It continued over and over again for somewhat 40 minutes. The zwei adom, the red alert, didn't stop. Alongside to the red alert, we had heard bombing non-stop. Now, Nadav always says that we know how to recognize a bomb. We know how to recognize, because we live so many years in Nahal Oz, we know how to recognize if it's our bomb, or if it's Hamas bomb. But this time we heard sounds we didn't know. We heard unfamiliar sounds. Later on, we discovered there were grenades and RPGs shot on houses inside the kibbutz, but we didn't understand quietly what is going on. So 6:29 in the morning. I'm trying to communicate with Ilan. Ilan is we call it in Israel Rav Shatz. Rav Shatz is the chief of the Kitat Konenut, of the civilians soldiers, and Ilan and I work together because Ilan gets the instructions from the army. He transfers the instructions to me, and my job is to translate these instructions to the public and the community. We tried to communicate, and the first thing Ilan said is that he saved Ariel. Ariel is a 15-year-old boy who went to do jogging, to run around the kibbutz on Saturday morning. His mother, Yasmin, called Ilan and asked him to rescue Ariel because there were missiles. No one knew at this time that these are not only missiles, but he rescued Ariel and put him alongside to his wife and 3 daughters inside the shelter room. He wrote down to me, Rotem, Ariel is okay, I rescued him. Do we have any injured persons from the missile attack? Again, it's still 45 minutes, 45 minutes past 6 in the morning. So we didn't understand what is happening. We even laughed a bit between us. We asked ourselves, what happened now? Like, who did we assassinate now in Gaza Strip that we deserve this attack? And we didn't have any answers. At around 7 a.m., I started getting messages from the community that they hear Arabic all around the kibbutz and that they can hear gunfire. And I remember for the first time, Michal, one of the members of the kibbutz, she called me and said, Rotem, I hear Arabic. And I asked her, are you sure? Because I think you're imagining. It cannot happen. It cannot be. We cannot hear Arabic in Nahal Oz. And because we don't have any close by Arabic villages, the only Arabic we can hear is from Gaza Strip. So it doesn't make sense that you can hear Arabic. It doesn't make sense that you hear gunshots or gunfires. At around 11 a.m., Ilan sent me his last voice message where he recorded, Rotem, I'm very sorry. I'm fighting now. There are terrorist attackers in the kibbutz. We are trying to kill them. I'm not available to answer now. Please manage the situation by your own. This was the last voice message I heard from Ilan. And from that moment on, from 7 in the morning and 11 minutes, I was actually alone trying to navigate through the managing of this horrifying event. From around 7 in the morning until maybe 40 minutes past 8 in the morning, we tried to figure out what is going on. I will say shortly that I just kept texting the kibbutz public and members. Do not get out of the shelter. Lock the doors, lock the windows. Do not get out by any means and by any chance. I am the only authorization that can tell you to get out of the shelter. These were the messages I wrote down to the kibbutz, that we are in a very bad and very complex situation, and I asked him to listen to me and do not do anything that I'm not saying that they can do. At a certain point, when we realized the terrorist attackers were inside the kibbutz, and not only inside the kibbutz, but inside the houses in the kibbutz, private houses in the kibbutz, Beri, which is the commander of the Kitat Konenut, called me and said to me the sentences I would never forget. He said, Rotem, There are hundreds of them. They are everywhere in the kibbutz. They are burning, they are killing, they are raping, they are doing everything they can to demolish and to destroy everything they see. You are on your own. We are on your own. We will not make it. We will not survive this day. Please do whatever you can to hug your family and be safe. And that's when we realized that we are not going to make it. There was a certain point, and this was the point, when we looked at each other and understood that this is a very radical situation. I would have to say that at this point, we had no response from the authorities and from the IDF. The IDF didn't understand the amount and the scale of the situation, and therefore they couldn't send help at this time. So we're talking about 9 a.m. We're talking about 9 a.m., which we understood that we are on our own.
I think at some point at the conversation, I'm in the safe room with Rotem, realizing he's telling the community to get in the safe rooms, lock the doors, lock the houses. At some point, I remember that Rotem's face expression changed to deep horror. And then I was curious of what did he heard about in this conversation, and then he told me that the last part of the conversation with Barry was that Barry told him that he's standing at the point in the kibbutz when he can actually have a view of the fields outside of the kibbutz, as we saw before. And he told Rotem the field between Gaza and the kibbutz is filled with what looks like thousands of civilians going through the fence, the border fence, and running towards the kibbutz, which when you hear something like that, it means only one thing. It means that it's only a matter of time until they conquer completely the kibbutz, and we will be stuck in the safe rooms without no help. At that point, when Rotem is sending the community this message of going to the safe rooms and never leave, as part of my injury, my PTSD, I felt something kick really hard inside me and telling me that's the wrong thing to do. Unfortunately for Rotem, I was really stubborn, and I told Rotem that I know you gave the order for the community to go inside the safe rooms, but I'm sorry, I'm not going to do this, because in that point we realized that some of our neighbors were already murdered. We have a senior neighbor who is a few houses from us. She was the first one in the morning to be murdered in her house. The terrorists went into their house. She was there with her husband. They closed the safe room door, but then the terrorists shot through the door, killed her on the spot, and then opened the door, shot her husband, and go outside. Her husband survived, but then he texted in the community group that she's injured, we need help, please hurry. It didn't take much time to realize she didn't survive, and then we realized that another senior neighbor behind us was also murdered already. The terrorists went outside the house, passed through the house, and shot through the window and killed him. So we understood it's getting closer and closer. So what I felt like I need to do is to tell Rotem that I will not be burned, and I will not be raped, and I will not be kidnapped from my own house. it's not going to happen. If they want to get us, they will need to work hard. But I don't have really much to do in such situations. So what I felt like I need to do is I need to make an ambush inside the house so I can see them before they see us inside the house. So Rotem was a bit confused, and he told me, what are you going to do about it? And I said, we're going to run. We're going to run really, really fast. So if we run and escape the house before they enter the house, they wouldn't even know that we were there. Lucky us, we didn't run outside, because if we ran outside, we wouldn't be here today 100%. So I sat in the living room for about an hour and a half with a knife in my hand, imagining all kinds of stuff that I would need to do if we need to defend ourselves. But then as we heard the explosion, then the gunfires getting closer and closer to the house, realizing they're actually circling the house, they're inside the neighborhood, and it's getting louder and louder. I told Rotem that I think the only thing that we need to do in order to survive, our only chance is if I run outside to the shed in the garden, I take the tools, and then I take the handles of the safe room door. I will take them apart, and I will bring the handles inside the safe room and shut the door so they can't actually open the door from outside. And I told him, he really said that there's no such thing that I'm going to do this. But I told him that I feel like deep down inside, this is our only way to survive this. So I went to the door of the house. I opened it a bit, and I looked outside to see if there's anyone outside of the house. And then I took off my shoes, and I sneaked really fast to the shed in the garden. When I went outside, I realized that what we hear from inside the house in a closed room, it's even way, way louder outside. We hear the shouting, the war cries, the explosions, the alarms keep going, and the rockets exploding above our heads. And it's like something so surreal that we never imagined we would be in such a situation. I got the tools, I went inside the house, and then realized I got the wrong tool. So I told Rotem, this is going to be really quick. I'm going to run outside again. In that moment, I don't feel anything. I'm just doing it like a robot. Like, I know this is why it needs to be done, even though it doesn't make any sense for me to go outside to the danger. These are the handles, actually. So I managed to take some of the tools and take the handles apart. I shut the door, and then somehow, even though we realize it's a lie, we're not really safe if the handles are off the door, but we still felt a bit safer. Even if it was an illusion, it helped us a bit to get ourselves together and function. During that time, my family, I come from a religious family. My entire family is still religious, and it was Shabbat. But I started getting messages and phone calls from my father and my oldest brother, and I was so confused. I was in this really surreal situation, but all I have in my mind is, Dad, why are you calling me on Shabbat? It's Shabbat. Like, what are you doing? And he said, my father and my two brothers are living in Sderot. And he said, I just wanted to check how are you, because we are under attack too. And I told myself, okay, Nahal Oz, Sderot, okay, it's the largest scale. And then I realized I need to check on the rest of my family. I have two older brothers and two younger sisters. A sister of mine is living in a kibbutz nearby. She's not home, so I feel great. She's in Ofakim. And I tell myself, okay, Ofakim is safe, it's all good. Another sister lives in kibbutz Nirim. She decided she doesn't want to spend holiday alone in the apartment. And lucky us, because her apartment was the first one in the kibbutz Nirim to be burnt, and the young people who are her neighbors were killed in the apartment. So I realized that my sister was also a step away from not being here. I tried to reach the other sister who was in Ofakim, and I couldn't reach her. But around 2 p.m., she's around 2 p.m. she's messaging us saying that it's unbelievable what happened to her, that she was with my brother-in-law, with her husband's family in Ofakim, and the group of terrorists entering her house when she's there with her husband's family and my nephews and nieces with her children. And then she said a group of terrorists went inside the house. We all ran to the second floor. We went outside of the window one by one. As we went outside the window, they were chasing us and shooting us. We were all got out safely, except her husband's brother, who made sure everyone exit the room. But as he went outside the window, the terrorists got into the room and shot him on the window, and he was dead on the spot. So she just wrote, "It's unbelievable. We escaped. Ariel is dead. We are safe." Then I realized that in this really unbearable situation, not only we experience it, my entire family is under attack, and only God knows how this day will end. So in that point, we are together in the safe room trying to figure out what do we do next? Because if so many people are under attack and nobody's coming to help us, it means we are alone. So it means we have no idea how long this is going to take. And if they got my sister and her husband's family, they will probably can get us too, as much as they got our neighbors who are already murdered.
I'm adjusting the 7th of October by parts, by phases. Well, the first phase of the 7th of October, whatever I told you about the first fight of the Hamas terrorist attackers to the Kitat Konanut of Nahal Oz, and then the second phase was the entering of hundreds of Gaza civilians to the houses themselves. There were children there, Gaza children, who came with their parents to the kibbutz to steal and destroy whatever they could. This phase was basically me trying to answer the phone calls and the messages I got from the kibbutz members. And I'm sorry to say, but I call this phase the Nazi phase, because it was after the civilians of Gaza went in and destroyed everything and also took hostage people from the community. And so after they came in with their babies, after they opened the fridge of families and cut a watermelon and sat there in their living room and ate the watermelon with their kids alongside to them, after they took their other families' kids' bicycle, after they took the water bars out of the electricity, and after they took the computers and the photos, after they did all of that, there was a nukhba, that were coming inside the kibbutz, and then they worked systematically. And that's why I'm saying this was the Nazi phase, because at this point, again, my family is from Germany originally, and a lot of my family members were being murdered and killed in the Holocaust, in the World War II. So there was this time at around 10 or 11 a.m. when I texted the whole community that the best shot is to be silence. So there was a moment when I grabbed my head and I said, it happens again. I need to be silence. I need to hide because I live in Israel, because I'm Jewish, because someone is after me, and everything he wants is me to be destroyed. And it was surreal, this moment when I told Nadav, shh, we should be silent, we cannot speak, we cannot talk to each other, because I don't want that all of the civilians and terrorist attackers will know that there is something inside, there's someone inside the house. This was the systematic phase where they took over Keshet neighborhood and door by door went in to each family and murdered them. The family of Ariel, who Ilan rescued in the morning, were all found dead in their home. So Ilan rescued Ariel twice. He rescued him at the beginning of the event from the missiles, and then he didn't know, but he rescued him from the horrible fate that brought to him. So he survived. He was the only one from this family to survive. All of the family was murdered there in their homes. And the systematic way was to try and get people out of the shelter rooms. So they took our beloved Tomer, a 15-year-old, young, amazing teenager, and forced him to move from door to door and take out the people from their shelters. Because everyone knows Tomer, everyone is familiar with his voice. They tried to use him in order to take people out. They succeed. In couple of events, Tomer really tried to do it badly. He knocked on the door like "Tzu achutza," like get out. No, they're not there. They're abroad. They're not here. No, I know personally this family. They're not here. He tried, but he couldn't make it with all of them. And unfortunately, they managed to take out of the shelter family after family. This happened from around 10 a.m. until 1 p.m. I'm reminding you all that we were still alone. The army didn't arrive, didn't come to help. The scale and the amount of the horror was too big for them to understand what they should do. And therefore, we were left alone. Unfortunately, the system of the Hamas terrorists wasn't only a system to murder and kidnap, but it was also a system to abuse. So they went in the Facebook accounts of the families and uploaded live videos of all the kidnapping and abusing the families. Therefore, Nadav and I are sitting in our shelter, and we know and we see live that 50 meters or 100 meters next to us. A kidnap is happening, and we couldn't help them. We only could. I remember Gali, one of the moms who lost her 18-year-old child, Mayan, with the terrorists shooting through the shelter door, and Tzachi, her father, and her tried to hold the shelter door so that the terrorists couldn't get in, but it didn't help because they got Mayan, they killed her, and then they released and moaned, and Gali sent me a message, Rotem, Mayan is hurt. I just want you to understand how I wrote down to her, Gali, please call 911. I called 911. They said, we're on it. We know everything is not okay. We're on it. We're taking care of it. I was so naive that I told her, I'm calling 911. The emergency team is calling 911. You should also call 911. But she sat on the floor, hostage with her family. She didn't even read my message because at this moment she only made it through to write me the message. Mayan is hurt. Mayan is dead, and it was very, it wasn't written right. You saw that someone wrote it very hurry, and this was the moment when we realized together that this is the worst scenario we could ever imagine. This is systematic. This is well planned. This is well prepared. This is something that the purpose of it is to be evil. It was pure evil. It wasn't self-defense. There were children there who were being killed and kidnapped. Tomer, after they used him to take people out of the shelter, they shot him dead. They shot his mother, and they kidnapped his half-sisters. So around 1:30, the army arrived with big forces to the kibbutz. And then we moved to 2 more phases in this 7th of October event, where the first phase was that the military soldiers are walking in through door to door to make sure and understand what was going on in each house. They cleaned the houses from terrorist attackers. And the second phase, which began at around 7 p.m., was the evacuation itself. 2 things about these phases. The first phase was chaotic because the army didn't really manage to understand who is where, and the only person who had the information of the emergency calls is me. But I'm not familiar with the map of the kibbutz. I didn't tell you, but I was only 1 month in my role. So Nadav looked in the Google Maps as you hear it and traced the places I wanted. I told him, this family, I need the spot. This family, I need the spot. This family, I need the spot, because they are not answering, because we saw the videos, because they're injured. And he sent me the location, and I sent it to the army, asking them to go there as soon as possible. But the army had his plan and organized way to clear and evacuate the people of the kibbutz, and it took many hours to do so. It began again at around 6 p.m. and finished at around 6 a.m. It means that there were people that were in the shelter room for more than 24 hours. In the shelter room, we don't have restroom, we don't have any food or way to exist, so that the hours in the shelter room were devastating to us. Personally, I couldn't stand on my feet. I needed to sit down because I felt that if I will stand on my feet, I will faint or lose my conscious. So we tried to make some kind of war room inside the shelter room, and point the IDF soldiers where to go to evacuate the really important places and marks. And we personally got out of the shelter at around 2 a.m., means 21 hours in the shelter room. And the evacuation itself was surreal, and you came out to a war zone. You have to bend in order. The war was still on. The attackers were still inside the kibbutz. Some of them were still inside the kibbutz. I'm sorry for the description, but there were bodies outside in the street of the Kibbuz Nahal Oz, and we needed not to look at the bodies. The soldier told us, please don't look aside, bend so that you can go to the vehicle, the armed vehicle. And we went on the vehicle and been evacuated from there. It's surreal also to say that the vehicle, we met there one of the seniors of the kibbutz, one of the founders of the kibbutz. She's 86, I think. And you sit with her, her eyes are wide open, and she looks at us. She's a friend of ours, she's a neighbor. And she looks at us and she says, I don't know what is going on. I can't believe this is going on. And you see the shock on her face. This was one of the moments I mostly remember from this evacuation, and especially when we were together, when we got to the place where we've been evacuated to, we began to understand who is with us and who is not. We had some kind of a sentence. We asked, on what bus is he? On what bus did he take from the evacuation area? And sometimes we realize that he's not on no bus. He's in his house, and we left him there, or them there. It was devastating for us to understand that we cannot help the people who were shot dead in the 7th of October.
From that point, the buses took us from the kibbutz to a military base in the south. We stayed there for a few hours, and in the early morning hours of October 8th, other buses took us to kibbutz Mishmar HaEmek in North Israel. And unfortunately, 2 weeks after we been evacuated, we got a phone call that there was a red alert alarm in the kibbutz, and our house got a direct hit from a rocket and was destroyed. So we thought ourselves these 2 weeks that even though we've been evacuated from the kibbutz, our house is still waiting for us. So it'll be easy to go back home eventually. But then we realized that our way back home is going to be way, way longer. And this is the direct hit, and above the bathroom. This is how it looks like before, and this is how it looks like after. This is part of the destruction. We spent so much this house. We loved it so much, and only that feeling that, this is material. We have proportion now. We value human lives so much more, but it was dream that we worked really hard for years. And then we realized we will need to dream again, and it's going to take a long time. Yeah, we'll go back to it. Yeah. So, So what you see here is two of my best friends. The one in the middle, her name is Livnat. She's from Kfar Aza. And the one on the left, it's Sigal. She's from near Oz. Sigal's husband is kidnapped in Gaza too. 2 weeks after October 7th, she gave birth to a little baby. Her name is Dor, and she said that one of the worst experiences of having a new child with her husband hostage, but this is Livnat's family. She was really one of the most beautiful people I've ever met, and this is her family. And before we go to the next photo, I would say that maybe the next photo is really hard to watch. It's not so. Unfortunately, a few days after October 7th, I got this message that Livnat and her husband and 3 kids were found dead, all together, hugged on the bed in the safe room, which was really heartbreaking because the following weeks after October 7th, we had more and more names of friends and family. If we go back to the photo of the names on the wall. And yeah, so the following weeks after October 7th, there were many members, family members and friends from the community that some of them we already knew what happened to them, that they're gone, they've been murdered, but some of them it was unknown of what happened to them. So at first we thought, why is it taking so long to recognize the people that we see every day? But then we heard more and more day after day of the atrocities of what happened. And then we realized that it's taking time because it's hard to recognize the people that we know so well. So what do you see in the signs? It's in the entrance of the dining room in Kibbutz Mishmar HaEmek, who's hosting us. I think one of our let's say biggest hopes during these days is actually receiving so much love and being united in unity all together. When Kibbutz Mishmar HaEmek took us under his custody and took care of us, having basically telling us our kibbutz is your kibbutz from now on until you can go back home. So every day they love us, hug us, they treat us, they gave us therapies of all kinds voluntarily, and I think in these dark days, maybe the feeling of loving and being loved by people that living in the north, just by saying we're one nation, we live in this small country, why wouldn't we take care of you? And this is really heartwarming, and they told us eventually that we can be there as much as we need. Right now, it's they're building for us with the kibbutz and with the government together. They're building an area of small neighborhoods, so we can move from single rooms, which we're living still since October 7th. We all got single rooms, and families with children, they all live in a really small room, managing somehow. But then hopefully in the following weeks, we will move to more suitable little houses until the summer. And when summer comes, eventually the plan is to go back south, not to the kibbutz, but somewhere closer to the kibbutz, until we can actually go back safely. So in the first few weeks after October 7th, whenever anyone who came to the dining room to eat dinner, unfortunately, this is what we saw.
When we went out of the shelter barefoot in the middle of the night, the welcoming of Mishmar HaEmek was the best hug we could get these moments. And I think this is the glimpse of joy, of togetherness, of hope that we had until today, because we have such a good community, we have such a good people, and the people gave us and giving us until these days hope to be here and to live another day and to tell the story and to be stronger and stronger as the days go by. The 7th of October Hamas took the life of 15 members of Nahal Oz community. Ran, Ilan, Chaim, Noam, Dikla, Tomer, Shoshi, Shlomo, Yasmin, Yaniv, Keshet, Tchelet, Mayan. 7 of our members were being kidnapped to Gaza Strip. 5 of them, thank God, came back, and 2 of them are still there. Tzachi, Idan, and Omri, Miran are still in Gaza Strip. There are no words for us to describe how unwhole we are now, how broken we are. First of all, because we don't have these precious people with us, and second, because we cannot live another minute without Tzachi and Omri with us and with their families, who were pure people who wanted to just live their lives. We really thank you for the opportunity to be here and tell our story. And it's a great honor and great privilege for us to tell it. And I think maybe it's now time for questions, if you have, or anything else to say.
My question is, what do you think about all the politicians that today in Germany, in Europe, in the United States ask for ceasefire now? What's your opinion about this?
Fortunately, we are not politicians, and therefore I cannot answer this question well. All I ask is peace. All I ask is that the families will reunite again. All I ask that all the innocent people all over the world, not only in Israel, will not be punished for the mistakes of each and everyone else. So I don't understand in war. Fortunately, I don't understand in it. I don't know what are the right or wrong moves politically and state-wise, and therefore my only wish is peace for each and every one of us, not only in Israel, but also here in Germany and all over the world. And I don't know what is the right thing to do. I just hope, I'm a small man, I'm only a teacher. I just hope that the right thing would be done as soon as possible to stop this evilness and hatred and pain.
Hello, thank you very much for sharing your story with us. My question is, do you have any explanation or new information why it did take so much time until help got to you? Because to us, we cannot even imagine to wait 24 hours for help.
First of all, I would say that there's so many things that we don't know yet. I mean, there's so many things that we feel like they're so big that if we knew the answer, I think we would have some relief. But there's so many things that we don't know. And part of the things we don't know is why things happen the way they happened. Even the bigger question of how come such thing happened when you have military and you have a border. But I think that Rotem likes to say a lot that it's a misconception of we're safe, and I think this is what we told ourselves. There's even a bit of guilt inside us that we told our friends and families for so many years. What are you talking about? Come to Nahal Oz. It's the safest place on earth. And in just one day, everything is like the total opposite of safe. So I hope that the people who are in charge will take responsibility and will really, really investigate, because I think that the answer won't even just, be an answer for the world or for the people who care about Israel. I think it'll be also important for us, the people who live there, to actually know the answer, so we can actually even have a decision. Is it safe to go back? Because if we will have the answer of how come such thing happened, and how comes that the army took so much time to come and help us, how come we were so many hours we're alone in our own country when we feel the strongest and the safest. And I think we are hoping for the answer like everyone else. And I hope that the right thing to do will be done, and which is to investigate and to get to the root of this thing, of how come it happened, and how come when we say never again, that one day this powerful saying became hollow in a moment, and how do we make it really, really never again, but we will be sure 100%, and we will know what we're talking about. Never again, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. This is why never again will never be again.
Hi guys, thanks for coming in here tonight. My question is, how did the 2 weeks following the attack look like for the two of you? In regards to healing, coping, finding out new information about other members of the kibbutz. Could you give me a glimpse of that?
Can you repeat, please, the question?
Can you hear me?
Yeah, I hear you well.
How did the 2 weeks following the attack look like for you, for the two of you? Healing, finding out new things, dealing with whatever happened, digesting, coping.
So as a part of my role, the first 2 weeks, I can only testify about myself. So the first 2 weeks were chaos, complete chaos. I won't tell details, but I would say that 2 years after the attack, I had a night call with the rabbi that cleared out the bodies from Kibbuz Nahal Oz. And the reason I had this conversation wasn't just to speak to him, but it took almost 3 hours to understand who did he get out. We didn't know what happened. We had a list. We made lists of names that didn't contact, or we didn't know where they are. And we tried to figure out and put the puzzle together to understand who is alive, who is kidnapped, who is unfortunately not with us anymore. So I'm telling you this because this symbolize the 2 weeks after the attack. We were, first of all, shocked, but then we also tried to figure out what is the destiny of members of the kibbutz. We really didn't know. It took 2 weeks approximately to arrange all the funeral arrangements for all of our members who found their death in the 7th of October. So it means 2 weeks we searched our legs and hands and tried to lick the wounds, as Nadav say, and understand who's against who and what is going on and how to manage and control the community in such horrific event. And you also need to remember that the community, all of the community, moved their houses with nothing on them, barefoot, no toothbrush, no clothes, no, it was cold, it was warm, we had nothing. So we had to focus on living, on how to live specific moments. It took maybe a month and a bit more. And along this first month, I was the community manager. We call it Menahel Keila in Hebrew. So it was an emergency community manager. I didn't do it good. Because this is what I know to do. I know how to put the plaster, the bandage on the wound, and not to give the full aspect of healing and recreating the community. Therefore, after 1.5 months, we switched roles, and the managers of the community took place and part and began this hard and long process of healing. Because it's not only families who lost their loved ones, it's not only hostages that kept in Gaza. Some of them didn't get back until then, and some of them are still there. It's a community. It's kehila in Hebrew. So the togetherness of the kehila, the mourning and everything demanded a really gentle care. So the first 2 weeks were take the fire out, to stop the fires. You know what I'm saying? Like to stop the fires and wait a second, to breathe for a minute, to understand who is against who, And after 1 month and a half, we began the long process, which is, by the way, still ongoing of healing.
Just something to correct you. You said you didn't do good, and you did good. You did.
Hi, and thank you for being here, sharing your experiences, which I can only imagine what it takes you to be here. And I consider this very important. My question is something that's alongside a lot of things that I find very striking about what you told us, is that you are considering going back. And here in Europe, we heard a question. It's a lot about, well, what is the future, right? People are spending a lot of thoughts about what's happening right now. How is the world in Israel in the Near East going to look like, hopefully soon? Now, you said you're planning to go back. How do you align an idea like that, going back to that place, 700 meters from Gaza? Can you tell us or give us an idea of what's going on in your hearts and heads about the place itself, going back there, and also maybe about what should your neighbor, Gaza, should be like before something like that could feel right or have a perspective? Thank you.
You know, driving back home after work every day is something that is so normal and regular and daily for us. Doing it right now, it became fantasy. And it became fantasy because, as we said before, there's so many things that we don't know. I think one of the most difficult things right now to handle is to actually ask this question within the family. And because Rotem and I, we speak really openly about it, we think we feel different because of the situation. I feel like I'm more close to go back home, even though it's a fantasy, even though I don't really know how would it look like, how would it feel, what needs to be done in order. But I want to do it. I dream about doing it, and I know I'm allowing myself to speak on behalf of Rotem that he's a bit far away from this point of view. He doesn't see himself yet going back home. So we are a young couple, so we would have conversations in the next months, and we'll figure it out. But when you have, for example, a family of 4 kids, and some of them are teenagers, and half of the family feels one way, and the other half feels different, or even one kid in the family feels different from the rest of the family, it's something that you need to deal with it right now. And it can be really heartbreaking for families to have such conversations, because it's home. Home is the where dreams came true. Home is where our friends are. Home is where we built ourselves. Home is where we were better. So I think this is something that's happening right now. We're realizing what we need to do. In our case, we know that even when the community will be back, our journey will be a bit longer, because as for now, we're our house is damaged the most, in the most damaged in the kibbutz. So in order to stand in our own house, we will know it's going to take a lot of time, way after our community will be back in their homes. But if I, as myself, take it forward, this thought, and imagining myself in Nahal Oz, back home, I need to feel safe again. In order to feel safe again, I need some things to happen, right? But I don't know what are these things. I just want to feel safe. It's a really basic thing, and At some point, I asked myself, what do I need to do to feel safe? And then I answered myself that I'm not a general. I can't bring safety to myself as if I'm the governor of the area. I'm just a simple person who lives in this area. But I do know that as long as we are being chased only because of our identity, because, and I'm not ashamed to say it out loud, we are good. The people in our community are good. We always talk about peace. We always talk about how do we make ourselves better. As teachers, what we do is we wake up every morning, go to class and deal with students and tell them, like, how do we create a world of pluralism? How do we create a world of people are respecting and loving each other? And how do we grow better out of this horrible thing that happened to us? But I can change my identity. I can change who I was born to be. I cannot change it. And I will not argue with anyone who would tell me that this is a crime of who I am. I'm very proud to be who I am. I'm very proud of my nation. I always joke about it, that the people who are criticized the most, the government of Israel, are Israelis, because we have, as we say, warm blood, but it goes everywhere. And I think in that way we are always being better and better. And I think this is the only way I see right now, taking this whole energy and what do I do when I wake up in the morning? What do I do with energy? I mean, we're not working anymore, right? We're not living at home anymore. We lost so many friends and family members. What do we do with everything? What do we do when we wake up in the morning? What do we do? And I think the only way we take it is we're getting better. We're loving. We're getting closer to each other. We study more of what can we do. I don't know what needs to be done in Gaza. I just know that I have the full legitimacy to ask for safety in the land of Israel, because you don't just wake up in the morning and feel threatened and leave home. It's really hard for me to leave home. And I think it's going to take a lot, if anything, to make us leave our home. And you know what? This answer can change every day, because every day is different. That's the way it is right now. We have pride of our nation. We have pride of our people, of our togetherness, of our unity. And sometimes when I don't know how to answer big questions, I just say, let's just be good to each other. Maybe the answer will come along the way. But right now, this is what we got, and this is what we're working on.
Thank you very much for sharing your stories. My question is, in this day of inversion of truth and reversal of facts and lies and rising anti-Semitism, how can we help you after what we've heard? What is your wish for us living in the West? Thank you.
Thank you for that question. As I said, I have German roots. And I think the German people, all of the German people, we're here in a Jewish community, so maybe it's a job you're already doing, but when I adjust all of the German people, I think that the German people knows more than anyone else what it feels like when someone is the existence of someone is not acceptable. The core existence of me as a Jewish person, the core existence of me as an Israeli, my privilege and right not only to live in Israel, but to live is, I'm sorry to say, not yet grounded. And therefore, I think that we have together, and the German people together with us, to remind everyone that this reality cannot repeat itself, that we cannot deny any existence of anyone in the world. And when it happened and people denied existence of some religious, like Jews, it was disruption. It was world war. And as long as we will cherish the knowledge of wanting someone to disappear, we will make it. And I think that when I say it to German people, they know what I'm talking about. And therefore, you as German are the best messengers, the best ambassadors of us. And again, I'm saying it to a Jewish community, so it's a bit, it's a bit odd, because you know what I feel like, and I know what you feel like. We're together, we're a community, but you're here in Germany, and I think the best thing I can ask you as residents of Germany is not letting anyone even think of erase Jewishness, Jewish people. And again, I'm saying it not only for Jewish, but we're speaking in the context of Jewishness. So when we sat in the shelter room and we got silenced because we hid from our murderers, and Nadav said, never again. It got hollow, never again. We cannot only say never again. We have to make sure that it will never happen again to anyone, by the way. So really the only need I have is that we will make sure together that we've been heard, that our needs are being heard, that the people here in Germany and in general will respect and accept and acknowledge the existence of Israel, the existence of Jewish, and the existence of us here.
I want to add one more thing shortly to that, and I would just say that everything that we do here, all the pictures, all the conversations that we have, we send everything to our community of Nahal Oz, and the feedbacks that we are receiving, that people are getting stronger, even the families of the hostages, they're saying they're sending their hugs and thanks. So just for embracing us, and we are sharing this with the community, it's already making the community in our community stronger. So it's happening right now. So we're also thankful for that.
Hi. I'm sorry. I'm very honored to listen to you. Every Sunday, we walk on the Königsallee in memory of the hostages who are still in the hand in Gaza. You told us that 5 of your kids or hostages could escape or were freed. What do you know about them? What did they tell? Did they say anything, or in what condition are they? Are they being helped by people? I mean, it's probably very horrible what they've been going through. And the second question is also, what can we do? I've seen your house. I mean, I'm not a builder, but if we could give you and the kibbutz money to help you building up your house again, this would help me feeling better. As an Israeli, as a Jew, as a daughter of a Holocaust survivor, please publish a number where we could all spend some money to help you to build up your house again.
Thank you.
Okay, so about the thank you. Yeah, we have no words for it, but thank you. We will publish, and thank you for that. Tzachi and Omri, their condition is not known. The IDF assumes they are still alive. We got one video message that is propaganda video message of Hamas terrorists, which they says in the video propaganda that Tzachi is not alive. But through the indications that the IDF has, Tzachi is alive, and therefore we hold to that concept of Tzachi is still alive, of Omri is still alive. We didn't receive any video of Omri. We didn't see him. Thank you. But again, we still hold to the concept that Tzachi and Omri are still alive. No one saw them. The authorities, I mean, didn't see them. Although several hostages that came back to Israel reported about them. They saw them here and there. And therefore, the estimation is that they are still alive. We are praying that they are. We don't know anything about their condition. I only can say one thing, that when we saw the video of Tzachi, he looked very, very, very bad and very thin and very, very bad. I remind you that he left his family knowing that his older daughter, Maayan, was murdered, and he doesn't know what happened to the rest of his kids and his wife. Therefore, he's still there, not knowing anything, and we don't know what his condition is. Yeah, the five hostages came back to Israel. One of them, Elma, is very, very ill. She went back in a very bad condition. She almost passed away on the way from Gaza Strip to Israel. She's still hospitalized there in the hospital, and she's getting really important and life-saving treatment. Dafna and Ella 15 and 9 years old were in Gaza for almost 2 months. They came back. They're with their mom now. Their father has been shot on the 7th of October. And slowly they're coming back to meet their friends in the kibbutz, because the kibbutz was the main place they stayed, so that their friends are from Nahal Oz. So sometimes we see them, sometimes they're at their mom's, but they're healing. They had very hard time there. Judith, Ranan, and Natalie, they were visitors from Chicago. They were visitors of Tami Leviatan, who is a member of Kibbuz Nahal Oz. It's her daughter and her nephew? No, granddaughter. Yeah. They released from Hamas jail 3 weeks after the attack, and they went back to Chicago.
As for the second question, I would say that we actually asked, the people of the kibbutz who were, who's running the kibbutz. We consulted with them, and we said we're just two young members of the kibbutz. We don't know anything about how do we, like, what do we do? What do we do? We want to spread the truth and come and visit our friends and partners from in the community in Germany. But I would say a simple thing, that there is a way not to help us. We're not here as individuals or as a family of our own, Rotem and I. We are here on behalf of the community. And I'd say we feel safe under the hands and, let's just say, under the wings of the community. And as long as the community is getting support, we know we'll be fine, because we're taking care of each other. So at the end of the road, we know we'll be fine. We know how the house will be fine. We really, really appreciate and thank you for your suggestion. But I would say that there are ways that to help and contribute to the kibbutz as a community, as a kibbutz, because Rotem and I and so many other wonderful people, what we do with our time right now, we're investing ourselves 100%. Some of us left our jobs to invest all of us in the community, in the rebuilding of the community, rebuilding the kibbutz. And I think, to be practical, at the end of the day, we can send, the ways to contribute and help the kibbutz through our friends that we know here, and every help that we get, I know, not just will help us be stronger, but helping us right now being stronger. So we really appreciate it. Thank you.
Are there any more questions? Gibt es noch welche Fragen? Hat noch jemand eine Frage?
Well, I want to thank you both for your openness and for sharing with us those things that are really difficult to hear and to understand and to imagine. I think it was for all those people that came today important to hear it. It was heartbreaking, but important, because the truth is sometimes hard, but it is important for the procedure, for the healing, for understanding the future. And I hope we can be all of us ambassadors for your case and for Nahal Oz and for Israel. And so I wish you, on behalf of everybody that was listening, a lot of success in rebuilding the kibbutz and rebuilding your life. And we hope very much that the situation is going to get better in the sense that you feel safe also to go there, that other people feel safe to go there, and that things are going to get stable and hopefully the future going to get better. At the moment, we hope all to see the hostages back home soon with the families, to see the soldiers back home, and to see a safe Israel for the next few years. Thank you very much.
Amen. Amen.
For coming. Vielen Dank.